Seller Sessions Live is back after 3 sold-out shows. Come join me and an army of 7-8-figure sellers from around the world. Once again, we fly in the world's best Amazon speakers, dropping cutting-edge marketing tactics. This time we have a series of fringe events giving you a weekend of learning, networking, and the legendary parties we are known for. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Today I've got an all-star lineup of sellers from around the world, kicking off with James. He's also one of the smartest guys I know when it comes to optimization for 3PL, 7-figure seller. Then, of course, you've got Matt Altman, who's previously has also been on the show. Then you've got Leo, the very handsome Italian, who's also very good at ranking. 7-figure seller. A lot of people know who Leo is, been on the show before. And, of course, Benjamin Weber. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank
you.
Excellent. Right. So what we're going to cover, I mean, obviously we know that fees have gone up recently and we know with what's going on with the auction. I just wanted today from a seller's perspective of what you've been doing to counter some of these things. So obviously there's quite a lot that can be covered here, and you guys are going to come from a different perspective on how you're offsetting. So let's start before we move into inventory auction. Let's talk about fees. So James, obviously, being a seller and running a very good 3PL, you're at the coalface with this stuff. You've written some really good content, and you've done a couple of shows on Seller Sessions with regarding optimizing 3PLs. When the news hit, what are some of the strategies you got in place for your business and for some of your clients as well?
I think the biggest thing for us is because we're not just like, I don't want to just be like, hey, we do what we're told. I want to okay, I get all the sellers coming to me like, how do I do this? How do I do it? I was like, okay, I have to learn this whether I want to or not. We looked at what is the most like egregious changes, because a lot of the FBA fees, yes, they rose, but they rose a little bit here and there. And I was like, okay, this happens every year, so we know about it. But what I was more so concerned about is the fees that increased a lot. For example, removal order fees, those almost doubled. And that's going to be something that, we don't think about that. We just, well, guess what? Your returns, you have to pay for those, whether you dispose of them or remove them. It still costs you a lot of money. And then storage, as we all know, Amazon is not raising the rates of storage dramatically. They're just adding more fees onto storage. So now you get charged storage fees for your storage fees for your storage fees. And I wanted to like dive into those and be like, okay, to my clients that are having storage limit issues, restock limit issues, IPI, all this other stuff, it's like, you're going to end up paying more and not even realizing it until like, oh my goodness, why is our P&L down? Well, a lot of the sellers I know and work with, yes. Do they have P&Ls? Sure. Are they looking at their storage rates and their removal order charges like they're looking at their referral fees and FBA fees? Absolutely not. So I think this is going to bite a lot of people in the rear. And if they're not watching their numbers, and it's all of your numbers, not just, hey, I'm going to go buy this product, whether you're wholesale or PL, and I'm planning for the FBA fees and referral fees. Well, we're factoring in approximately 30 days of storage for every single product. And I looked at some of my products and it's like, holy cow, like this is $1 of storage, not even oversized. It's just a regular product. $1 of storage per month, per item, if it's there for 30 days. So I recommend, obviously every seller is different, but the storage fees and removal order fees are going to creep up behind you.
Yeah. And so something that we'll come back to counteracting that, because I want to move around the room to the other gentleman and we'll come back to you and you can tell us some of the strategies. Matt, with you, what have you been doing in terms of the increases? What are some of the strategies you're using in-house on your businesses and clients?
Yeah, so we're doing two things currently. One is we've stopped buying like shipping directly from Amazon. We're doing full truckloads and mixing and mingling our own, like all of our clients' stuff together because they were all in the same 3PLs basically beforehand. Um, it costs a little bit more upfront, obviously, to do that, but it allows us to send weekly or even twice a week shipments. So we're cutting down on the time that the items are actually at Amazon. And it's increased kind of our check-in times from like 7 to 10 days to really 1 to 2 days. Once it's dropped, it's getting checked in almost instantly.
Yeah. Leo.
Yeah, on my side, then, like considering that all these fees are pretty much increasing on February 1st, we are actually now working on some sort of a model that allows us to increase the cost of our products, the cost of sale, right, of our products by whatever much we're going to end up paying more for these fees. So, for example, what we know is that the FBA fee is increasing by 22 cents, right? So at least we have to increase our cost of product by that much, right? So these are all eventually costs that we're going to pass to the customers, right? In order for us to sustain our business. But we're trying to calculate how much more is this really costing us, because they are actually reducing the cost for returns. So that needs to be calculated. Like if we have 5% returns, then we have to calculate some sort of or build some sort of a formula. But that's pretty much what we're trying to understand here. How much more is costing us to sell these products on Amazon?
Yeah. Ben.
Yeah, I mean, very similar to what everyone said so far. I guess the only real additional piece that I would have is that we're looking at essentially self-liquidating products where we're figuring out where the break point is, where it's better for us to just drop our price and even still run advertising to it to get it to sell and to just sell through things versus having to do removals or have something destroyed because of that significant price increase that James talked about.
Yeah. And you mentioned, what was it you were talking about off call? You had an email come through.
Oh, yeah. I have not looked too deeply into this yet, but Amazon sent us an email about a beta program where essentially if you are able to send your product to Amazon in ready-to-ship packaging where they don't have to do anything with it and they can just ship it out, they're going to offer some fee discounts. From what I've looked at for the list that they sent us over of our products, the cheapest or the largest, I should say, discount that we're getting would be like 41 cents a unit. So having to find ready to ship packaging for less than 41 cents is not necessarily going to be the easiest thing to do, but that's something that we'll be investigating. I can give you some more information on that later once I've dug deeper into it.
A bit more. Yeah. Okay. So swing back round to James. Obviously you outlined some of the things. What are you doing to offset some of these things, like the increase, like Leo just said, that he's just up the price slightly?
Yeah, well, I think naturally everyone is going to be raising their prices slightly. That's just the way the market is between inflation and fees and all that other stuff. But one thing that I've talked to a lot of sellers with, whether it's my clients or just people I've networked with, is the reduction of days of stock at Amazon. Whether you want to call it increase of sell-through, reduction of days of stock, there's a bunch of terms that basically to say, hey, I'm going to keep as little at Amazon as possible without running dangerously low on stock where you get buy box issues or delivery time issues. And kind of the target that we say is like, I'd love to get to 35 days of stock. The problem is that includes your stuff inbound to Amazon. So like Matt said, we also do the FTL, the consolidated freight, because the way we see that is one, partner carrier right now in the middle of January, which is a moderately slow time, is picking up late, taking forever to get delivered. And it only gets worse in Q4. We all know that. So if you're able to control your freight in, that's one thing. Not buying as much, or if you do buy more, you store some of it and you send some of it in, because Amazon sneakily, if that's even a word, returned our 6-month storage fees now. So they used to have only 9 months where they would start incurring fees. They brought it back to 6 months. And we have some clients that are using AWD. There are very significant pros and very significant cons to that program. It does not fit for everyone, but it may make sense for some. And that's the ability to send stuff into Amazon's quote storage. But you better be confident in that inventory, because removing that from AWD is not trivial and it's not cheap. And it's not fast. So there are pros and cons. Obviously, there's 3PLs that will store it. There's AWD, but is sending in more frequent, smaller shipments. It's kind of always been our philosophy. I personally have never had restock limit issues because we've always kept our inventory lean. And the people that have usually have way too much stock. I'm not saying it's all, but it's pretty consistent that if you're going to flood Amazon, they're going to penalize you for it.
Yeah. Matt, do you want to add here?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing that we've really focused on, and we've been doing it, I would say, for about a year now, is packaging and optimizing all of that down as much as possible. Because this is a great example. I just bought this pill organizer a couple days ago. It's literally only half the package. So any little centimeters, anything you can cut off is really saving big bucks now.
Yeah. Leo?
Yeah, we haven't really, to be honest with you, Danny, we haven't really thought about how to optimize the size of the packages. But we are, like James said, we are investing into AWD. So we made that switch. And James, I'd be curious to see maybe, talk to you a little bit more about that. But we thought that going AWD was actually a smart move. Yes, I agree with you. It doesn't work for all products. But in our case, when we compare the prices of AWD with all the other 3PLs, most of the 3PLs out there, it's actually a lot cheaper. And so we were moving quite a bit of inventory. And so we thought it was a little bit more convenient for us to ship to AWD, which has a really good connection right now with the FBA, the fulfillment networks. And so if everything goes well, this is the first time that we're actually testing this. If everything goes well and smooth, we should be able to see, more we shouldn't run out of stock as frequently as we used to, but also a little bit more, ease of management when it comes to keeping the products and working on inventory and all of that. But again, it's too early for me to tell or to say, well, this is actually saving us money and then cost on storage versus the previous way. But that's one thing that we're currently trying to understand a little bit more. And one thing that I will suggest, actually, for those of you that are trying to test AWD, is to get in touch with Amazon, because that's something that we discovered. There are two main warehouses in the US. One is in Maryland, and the other one is in San Diego, California. And most sellers, when they actually opt in to use AWD, they get the Maryland warehouse. But there is a way that you can actually get them to change it to San Diego, which will save you a lot of money when you ship from China to the West Coast. So probably, I don't know how much storage they have there for new sellers, but you can definitely ask, and if there is storage, they will map your account over to the West Coast. So that's what we did. And we also saved a lot of money there. So I think when we look at how much we saved overall by just making this change, we probably offset the costs that Amazon just announced as an increase.
Cool. Ben, pros and cons for you, AWD, for people who are not aware of it, what it is, etc. Just a brief background.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, sorry, my computer is completely frozen, so I can't actually see what's happening.
We can hear you, but your screen is frozen. It should reset in a moment. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I guess for us, the big thing that we've been doing is, as everyone's saying, trying to run leaner as far as the amount of inventory we're sending in. Because, I've talked to you about this before on the show, but we actually deliver our own inventory to Amazon ourselves. So we're actually looking at getting a second truck and running even more frequent shipments in, rather than sticking with the one truck that's running maybe 12, maybe 120 pallets a weekend. So trying to run a second truck to make it even more lean, so we can get down to the under 30 days of inventory actually being stored there. So because of that, we haven't really looked into AWD much, because it doesn't really impact anything we're doing, because it's cheaper for us to store it in our own warehouse and deliver it ourselves.
Gotcha. James, do you want to give a brief background AWD for people that don't know?
Yeah, I will add to Leo's statement, there is also an Illinois warehouse for AWD. So that's helpful for the people that are more central. But AWD, Amazon originally announced it as Upstream. And I think they even had another name before that or something like that. And they said, hey, we want to be your 3PL that trips into Amazon. In theory, that sounds amazing, but we all know how Amazon is so good about taking care of all of our inventory perfectly in their regular FCs. Yeah. Sarcasm. But the program started out, it was kind of a beta that a lot of sellers were in. So not like a SaaS core beta, but like there was just kind of randomly you were enabled. And then now they've enabled it for all, or if not most all sellers. You send it into an AWD warehouse. The shipment workflow, you have to use send to Amazon. You can't use the API at this time unless something new has been created. And it's a little bit more convoluted. For private label sellers who have consistent pack sizes, it's a little bit easier. And that's why I say it really depends on the customers. We deal with a lot of wholesale sellers that, for example, may sell Christmas items, but they're buying it throughout the year to stock up. So one, you have to have consistent case sizes. So if your product, if you want to send in 55 and they're in cases of 10, well, you can't do that in the same shipment. So that's one challenge. The second challenge is there's no partner carrier right now. So that will be more expensive for some people, depending on your checking relationships and stuff like that. Removing it from AWD, I believe, I can't find the article, but I read it at probably about a month or two ago. And Amazon basically says, we can take like 3 to 6 months to get your inventory out, or maybe 3 months. I can't remember exactly, but the point is getting it removed from AWD can be difficult. So I'm not saying you should or shouldn't use AWD, but that is a factor. If you have something go wrong with your product, if, for example, Ben has a product that has a defect, well, he doesn't have to figure out how to get that inventory back to him. He can just go to his warehouse or go to his 3PL or whatever. If it's at AWD, you may have to send it to FBA, which costs money, then remove it from FBA, which also costs a crazy amount of money. If you try to remove it from AWD, it may take you weeks or months. And they kind of say, like, when we get around to it. And it's probably not their exact language, but kind of how I inferred it. And then I have also heard, because it's still a new program, you're also, you have to monitor it. Amazon says, oh, we'll automatically send it in when you need more stock. Well, one, how does Amazon determine when we need more stock? They don't, like, you can push stuff through. So if you're doing a launch or a ramp up or whatever, but what if you're slowing down and you want to like dial back the days of stock? You don't have the knobs to like adjust it super fine tune. In addition to that, I've also heard reports from some of our clients that they said, I ran out of stock and AWD didn't forward it. Well, it could have been a glitch. It could have been a minor problem, but I'm just relaying my observations. So is it a perfect program? No. Is it good for private label sellers? Possibly, not always. Wholesale sellers, it may make sense for certain things, but this is going to be a case by case, and I recommend you look at the fees very, very closely, and all the fees, not just, hey, they can do case forwarding for $2 or $3, whatever the number is now. Yes, that's typically cheaper than a 3PL, except what about the storage rates, and what about the shipping to AWD as well, because you're going to have to pay for that outside of Amazon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, Matt.
I'll add to that. I will say it's taking a while too. It is way easier to send stuff from overseas using Amazon Global Freight than it is your own carriers currently. We sent out 4 shipments about the beginning of December. They just got checked in yesterday, even though they were ready for delivery on like the 23rd. So of December. So it's been about a month sitting there waiting to get into these warehouses. And that's the Maryland one specifically.
Yeah. Are we kind of covered here, and then we move on to the inventory auction? Is there anything you want to add?
The only thing I would add about AWD is I agree with everything that James said here, but I will still keep an eye on it, because I know that, so we've been invited as software developers to participate into their beta program for the API development. So they're investing a lot of resources and money into developing these into a multi-channel fulfillment network. So their goal is to use the storage that you have, or inventory that you have with AWD, and fulfill all your orders across all your channels, including Amazon and Shopify, WooCommerce, and whatever you're selling. So that's what their main goal is with AWD. And so I don't know if later on they will just open easily to everyone, or whoever gets in now, it will be easier for them to onboard this new kind of like service later on. But I wouldn't exclude it for now. I will just maybe keep an eye, or even have an account with them, be approved to ship it to them, and then understand, is this something that works well for you? Like in our case, for example, we were able to ship with ProBox, which is a new software similar to Freightos, and they were able to give us a super crazy deal on a shipment from China directly to the AWD, so we didn't have to use the Amazon Global Logistics.
Yeah.
So I will just encourage people to do their own work and see if this is something that works well for them. But if you're doing multi-channel fulfillments, then probably there is one more reason to check them out.
Yeah. Ben, anything you want to add before we move on to inventory auction?
Yeah, I guess the only other thing that I was looking at, or that stood out to me whenever I was looking at it, is it looks like the spot you basically want to avoid as far as fees for the current increases is the 8 to 12 ounce product. Like I think that I can't look at it right now to be 100% with what I'm saying, because my computer's so frozen. But I believe the 12 to 16 ounce, there's not really any major change as far as the actual fees, and the same with the 4 to 8 ounce. So the 8 to 12 is where the biggest hit is going to come in. So if you can find ways to get either just under, to get just under that, or add something to a product and go over it and add more value for the customer, that's where you're going to get a slight benefit on the fees. And then with the actual, what I was talking about with the kind of self-liquidation thing, one thing that a lot of people don't think about is the cost of sending something back into Amazon, and the cost of dealing with it yourself, or dealing with it, or having your 3PL deal with it before you send it back in. So just making sure that you're calculating those costs into what you're doing, along with the cost of the removal fee, and not just looking at the removal fee.
Yeah. Cool. Inventory auction. Who wants to kick this one off? James?
Look, give me a minute. I'm going to pull up the article just to make sure I say a couple things properly.
Yeah. Okay. While you're pulling that up, Matt, do you want to add anything here on the inventory auction? Some of the ways you're dealing with it?
To be honest, we haven't really dove too deep into it. I think the biggest issue that you're going to have is we work with a lot of larger sellers. Like, they're willing to pay whatever to keep inventory at Amazon. Yeah. I think it's going to put it out of reach of most like private label sellers once this does start happening.
So full of good news today, then.
Yeah.
Leo, while James is pulling that up, do you want to add anything on this inventory auction?
Yeah. So although the fee is not clear yet, they said that they're allowing sellers to bid for extra storage. They didn't really say where the bid starts at. I think it's going to be around 10 cents per cubic foot. I think this is just going to give larger sellers a little bit more room to grow, so turn mid-sized fish into sharks, per se, and then the smaller guys. So I think it's going to eventually penalize more the smaller sellers that were really looking into the FBA because of the the logistics aspect, and the fact that they didn't need to necessarily figure that part out of the business. So I think moving forward, yes, it's going to be even more challenging, especially if your products don't sell out fast. Like the fact that they're allowing you to only keep inventory in storage for 3 months, and then you're gonna pay long-term storage fees, or eventually like send your inventory back. That's that's challenging. But yeah, for those people, I think they're selling a lot and they need Amazon, they love Amazon fulfillment network. I think being able to buy more inventory and pay extra for it, that's awesome. So but so far I don't know how much, like it's too early, I think, to tell for us how much that's going to impact our business.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if it goes on the same lines of PPC with the ad auction. You mean $50 a click? What do you mean? I can't see myself in positions 1, 2, or 3. Yeah, it'll get silly. There'll be people out there with stupid amount of money doing stupid things as well. But let's hope that people will be a bit smarter about that. James, did you bring up the article?
Yeah. So one of the things that Amazon released effectively this program where you could pay for more storage. I think it was like midtime of this year, somewhere around there. Yeah. And it really, really helped certain clients. So for example, one of our clients does Christmas decorations. So his products, he's like, I need more space. I'm going to pay for more. But the problem is there are some things about this change that are good. It's the fact that where he didn't have restock limit space, which Amazon did not allow you to bid for more or pay for more, they sometimes granted requests, but that would only sometimes go through whatever. You were really bidding on the cubic storage. This eliminates the per unit limit. Yeah. I think it's going to probably implement it in like March or whatever, which for some sellers is a big deal because you couldn't get in units of your good stock, especially seasonal. Seasonal is going to be a big beneficiary of this. So in some ways it's good. The bad though is the problem is it incentivizes the bidding based on revenue generated on Amazon. Mm-hmm. So for example, the fees are you basically bid, let's just say you bid $100 for X amount of space. It doesn't really matter much, but Amazon's very, very clear in their math formulas. Even though the math is confusing, they give you it's 15 cents for every dollar in qualified sales to get reimbursed from your storage. Well, what if you sell low density, low value products? So if you're selling a tiny, let's just use a phone, for example. This is a small product with an extremely high value. Versus if I sell a larger product that is $50, that's oversized or whatever, now you're getting hit on the fact that, well, I need to request so much storage space for this, and it's not going to generate that much in sales because the unit cost is that much. So the people who are selling low density, low price products, irregardless of the size, are going to get hurt the most, I think. And that is something a lot of people have not thought about before because they're like, oh, well, we care about our FBA fees, we care about our storage fees. It was like, well, how much revenue do you generate per square foot? And that's what Amazon is focusing on. Right. Versus that's not something that any tool out there is like, well, you're going to generate 32 cents per 0.1 cubic feet. Like no one's doing that calculation right now.
So James, you're saying that people that are selling phone type of products, they're going to get hurt the most?
No, the people that are selling like small, high density of value products. Right. So a phone is going to be they're going to be able to bid more because they know that if they sell one unit, that they're going to get 15 cents. Let's say it's $100 phone. They're going to get $15 back in performance credits towards their storage capacity. But if I sell a tape gun's probably a good example. I'm in a warehouse, so yeah. A tape gun may only sell for $15, but how much bigger is a tape gun compared to a phone? So the guy who's selling a tape gun's like, man, I can't bid the same rate that the guy is selling the phone because I'm only generating $15. $15 times 15 cents is only $2.25 back per unit. But it's going to be a challenge. And what you bid, I don't know what that interval is. They haven't announced that. It's like, okay, is it going to be competing against each other like PPC? We don't know. I have a feeling it is just because more benefit for Amazon. Mm-hmm. But if I say, man, I sell, like one of the lines we carry is a whole bunch of electronics, a lot of which are small. I'm going to benefit, I'm going to be honest. One of my other accounts where I sell grocery products that they're not in massive packaging, but they're not very dense and they're very inexpensive. That account is going to get really, really hindered because when I sell a box of that grocery item, I'm sorry, I'm not making $50 a box. It's like $10. So it's going to be it's a new challenge and a new variable. Not that that's anything new with Amazon, that a lot of people go to software to do their inventory management. This is going to require a human to look at it. This is not just, hey, a lot of the IPI stuff, the restock limits, people are like, oh, I'm just going to get a software and have it tell me what to do. Yeah. Well, maybe that helped a little bit, but this is going to require human intervention and human research. Software does not solve this.
Right.
Really good point.
Mm. Yeah, the awkward silence in the room.
Yeah,
that was a mic drop. I didn't know what else to follow up with.
Yeah.
I would say
Danny wants let back in, so or Benjamin wants back in. Danny.
Yeah, no, he's trying to come back in now. He's just rebooting his machine.
Okay, no problem.
Is there any other things you want to cover before we wrap the show? Because that's pretty deep what you just said there, and yeah, it's just trying to work out what the next step is. You had me there because I'm thinking, all right, we'll come with a load of solutions. You know, we sit down, we work it all out. We're grown ups. We work out and then you just did a mic drop, and then you said, "Don't have an answer for it." So, so it's now you owe the community now to go off and find that answer. How about that? What about if we work on that, and then we can come back and do another show? Yeah.
I would say the two biggest things that we've done, though, that have increased our limits is we enabled the buy with Prime button on our D2C site. That gave us an almost 20% bump in units available at Amazon because the program managers there can go ahead and push that through for you. And then we've really just been using multi-channel fulfillment as much as possible to churn our volume, even for we're fulfilling Walmart, Groupon, anything we can with Amazon now, just to keep those units moving through as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it does look, the capacity manager is up now. The thing that they're using, it wasn't there yesterday when I looked, but I'm getting it now on every account that I've checked. So it does show you what your storage limits will be for March and April of this year.
Cool. Has anyone got any final words before we go?
I think this is just going to come down to people. Like we said this in COVID, we said this in 2021, 2022, all this other stuff. Amazon used to be the platform that you didn't have to care about operations and logistics. You could just send it in. You could send in as much as you want. You could send 3 years worth of stock and it'd probably be fine. Now that, and everyone focused on their ads and marketing and all this other stuff. And for the wholesale sellers who don't do a lot of that, I'm just going to focus on sourcing more. Well, inventory management, there's a lot of tools that will give you reporting, but there's not a lot of tools that will help you from the management of what decisions do you make about inventory. I was going through some list items the other day that stuff happened to the listing and whatever. We're going to decide to remove that inventory. Well, a report doesn't tell you to remove inventory. A report tells you you're overstocked, but now you have to, whether it's a person, whether it is just digging into your numbers, whether it's cost, advertising, all that stuff, and saying, now what decisions do we make off this reporting? Because you can get reporting from almost every software out there for Amazon. But now we're starting to actually have to make decisions. And this is very similar to PPC. You can have all the PPC reports in the world, but what decisions do you make off of that? I think the search query performance report is a great example. Fantastic amount of data, but what do you do about it? Now that's applying to operations, that's applying to the logistics, and that's especially applying to the logistics before and after Amazon. Removals, returns, like I think it was Ben who said, you need to factor in not just the removal cost or disposal cost, but are you going to compare that versus liquidation? Are you going to compare that versus removing it to a liquidation company or removing it to a 3PL or to yourself? And comparing all of those things at scale is going to be a lot harder for the people that wholesale sellers who have 3,000, 5,000 SKUs. You're not going to be able to micromanage that. If you're a private label seller, you can have a team and manage your SKU catalog. But when you're constantly adding 100 SKUs, 200 SKUs to your catalog, you need something that applies to everything. It's not, I'm going to micromanage this one listing. Like, cool, you can do that for a few, but you're going to get burnt out. So it's going to require more research.
Yeah, indeed. Best way to reach you, James?
I guess I'm on social media under James Universe, or on Facebook, James McConnell, or reach out on Marketplace Prep's website. Either way works. But I try to help out where I can, but ultimately I'm a seller, and I do run a warehouse, but like, I just try to help out where I can, and I don't have anything else to really sell people in a sense. So it's hard to free up a lot of time for it, but I absolutely try to help where I can.
Yeah. Thank you for your contribution, mate. Matt, best way to reach you?
Yeah, either on LinkedIn or matt@rightsideup.co.
Cool. And Benjamin?
Facebook's probably the easiest, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties I had during this. If anyone wants my opinions on the auction things, shoot me a message, and I'm happy to respond.
Cool. And Leo?
Likewise, LinkedIn for me, and Facebook. I'm always on the platform, so either or.
Cool. Don't forget, guys, as well, we've got tickets for seller sessions. Super early birds are sold out. Early birds are sold out, so we're left with just the general admission. Matt, Benjamin, and Leo will be there. Sorry, James, we left you out on this one. Apologies. These three will be speaking alongside myself. You've also got Sharon Even and a load of others. There's also a seller hacks competition. So we're giving away cash prizes for the best hack. So if you want to put a hack forward and you come into seller sessions or want to come to seller sessions, drop me an email to danny@sellersessions.com. We've still got about 6 places left. First prize, it's not as much as Kevin King's $5,000, but we'll work with 1,000. I think that's pretty cool. Some tickets, and we'll take care of you as well. That takes place, new venue, Saturday the 13th of May. Got the VIP dinner. There's also a Tim Jordan workshop, and Leo will be joining me this year. As always, we do the after party till silly o'clock in the morning, and Mio and Leo will be going back to back, so we'll be DJing. Take care of yourself and your family. I'll see you next week. Sharon will be up on Thursday, and of course Adam Heist, our new co-host, he'll be back here in a few weeks' time. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I'll see you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye, Danny.
Thanks.